Okay. Uh, Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming on to the 12th session of Coach's Corner. Today, I have CN Murthy here with me. He comes with a solid 40 years of corporate experience, and for the last 10 years, he's been into coaching, consulting, and facilitation. The last corporate assignment that he did was as an executive director in large multinational organizations, an independent director with Motilal Oswal Financial Services. The focus areas that he has is into CXO and leadership coaching and team coaching, focusing predominantly on transformation and development of individuals and shifting the behaviors more so. He's a PCC accredited coach from ICF and a past president of ICF chapter in Mumbai. He's also a certified facilitator in various programs on emotional intelligence, accountability, working with individuals, and collaboration skills. In addition to that, he's certified in Lumina Spark and DISC practitioner with over 2,000 hours of coaching experience. Mr. Murthy, we are looking forward to you on Coaching Corner. Welcome on board.
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you for introducing me. So
as we were talking in the run-up for this session, and we were preparing for this, you have suggested a title for this session, which is the dance of consciousness that's coaching, which is a very intriguing one and an interesting one. Can you tell us more about your interest in this area?
Sure thing, Aditya. Before I get into that, let me just say that I'm really going to be enjoying talking to such a group or an intimate group. Okay. Well, let's say now 4 of you I know very well. And Chimu, would you just introduce yourself to me a little bit before I get started? Because you're the only one who I do not know. Okay.
Yeah,
could you
sure.
do that for me, please?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so my name is Chimu Kuti, and I started out as a banker, a retail banker, and then I quit and I became a soft skills trainer and then a life coach. So that is my journey. Right now, I do mostly coaching and soft skills training, and I'm very interested in this building up the confidence in people. So I'm a confidence coach and I do goal setting also.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Now, the only other person in amongst the 6 of us who's probably not known to the others is Raj. Okay, so Raj, would you share a few words about yourself? Raj,
you're on mute.
Or maybe he's not there. Okay. All right. So let's get started. Aditya, you asked me about why this session is titled The Dance of Consciousness in Coaching and the role played by consciousness in coaching. English is a very funny language because every word means different things to different people. Okay. And people understand the word consciousness too very differently. Okay. But let me tell you where I come from when I use the word consciousness in coaching. Mm-hmm. So it starts with my early experience with coaching. And I'm talking about a time way back in 2011, when I was first introduced to coaching. The experience was all about learning coaching as models. Okay, there were models of coaching that I was introduced to. the PCMK model is what I was trained on by Betskabar. And they were processes. And what happened was that when we go through these processes, we begin to learn the practices, what to do, what not to do, what to do first, what to do next. Talk about a process, the GROW model, for instance. What does GROW model mean? Okay, GROW model gives a coach a method of going about a coaching conversation. Yeah. Does it help a coach be an effective coach? No. It helps a coach be an efficient coach. First, focus on goals, then get the gaps understood clearly, then work on options, reality, options, then the way forward. So it's a model which tells a coach, be disciplined, be structured, and don't miss any of these important elements of a coaching conversation. So that's the way we went through it, right? So may I do one thing? Some of this is going to be a little new for people who haven't got into the Indian philosophy and psychology. So I put some slides across. Shall I just share that so that it becomes a little easier to? Give me a moment and I'll just share this, and then here we are. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is it. Now, this was the way I started coaching. And when Betskabar introduced me to coaching, it was, and I think I really didn't understand it then. She talked about mind, body, and spirit coach training. Mind mastery, body mastery, spirit mastery. And it's all about the client and yours. And she tried to sort of push this thought into our heads. And you know what? I was a newbie. I kept saying, theek hai, but it's just too esoteric for me. Okay, and you focused on the way, if you are going to be coaching a person on relationships, follow this process. If you're going to be coaching a person on personal success, go through this way. If your coachee is trying to look for a career change, then follow this structure. And so models, questions, these became the key elements that one focused on, right? And then came competencies, ICF competencies, okay? EMC has a list, ICF has a list. Each one of us say, you know what? To be a good coach, you need to master these. And I'm not going to get into the ICF competencies and list them or whatever. But I have been to so many webinars, and there are books and books and books and books written. And all of them ask the same question: presence. What is presence? Okay. Active listening. And there are debates going on about what is active listening. Powerful questioning. What makes a question powerful? And there's a lot of thought put into it. Okay, but you ask a coach today, you have read all this about active listening. You've read all this about being present. Can you be present? Are you present? And nobody has a ready answer. And that's where I was. I didn't know how to really demonstrate this in my coaching, right? So that's where I really got stuck. So what did I do? I I just focused on learning the competencies. Then I went to peer coaching sessions, tried it, recorded videos. But the more I practiced, the more I realized that I was missing something.
Hmm.
You know, and I have a mind, I have a brain, and my mind was fuddled. I couldn't recognize it. Something was missing. There were conflicts and questions that came up in my mind, and I was searching. And then I think at that point of time, I did a lot of reading. And there was a statement by Freud, the psychologist of old, lots of, people talk about him all the time. But one of the things that stuck to my mind was a statement by him when he said that the major part of human existence is below the surface. And you need to go and delve below the surface to really know a person. And for a person to know himself is not an easy thing to do.
Correct.
I think Tim Galway was very influenced by Indian philosophy when he made this statement. When the mind is free of any thought or judgment, it is still and it acts like a mirror. Then and only then can we know things as they are. And this is really what this is really what is at the heart of the confusion. What is my mind telling me? Then I had an experience when I was doing my yoga, and my yoga teacher, she asked me to sort of twist and take a particular asana position. And I got a bad trick on my waist. A really bad trick. And I was yelling in pain. And she said quietly and very peacefully, she said, "Sir, just move to the other side and practice what you just did, but on the other side." And I was very, very reluctant to do. What if I get a crick on the other side? But I did it. And to my amazement, the pain disappeared. I turned to her and said, "Ma'am, you are great. You really and truly know what you're doing." And she said, "No, it's not me. It's Patanjali's Yoga Sutras." Okay. And she came up with that. And she said, "Look, this is what Patanjali says. Vitarka badhane pratipaksha bhavana." Okay. When you are in pain, have negative thoughts of any kind, all you need to do is think about the opposites. Vitarka badhane pratipaksha bhavana. Bring out the opposites. Practice the opposites. And that is the solution to your problem. Okay. This is what happened there. And that day, I picked up books on the Yoga Sutras and I started reading. And after I went through that, then my interest grew and I got into the Tattva Bodha. And when we are talking about consciousness and the structure of a human being, I think it came from that reading of what has been brought out so powerfully and so in such a structured way in the Tattva Bodha. It gets elaborated in the Gita and in all the Upanishads and everywhere else. But the most fundamental learning about who am I, and which changes your own understanding of yourself, was in the Tattva Bodha. So that is where this whole thought about we have different levels of consciousness. and actually talks about 4 levels of consciousness. So if you're able to recognize that you have 4 levels of consciousness and be aware of the level of consciousness you are in, and you can move from one to another, that is when you really will be in flow and not be stuck in a position. Okay. So that was the learning that I picked up from all these readings. Okay. So it's been dancing, going through the various consciousness and bringing this into every coaching conversation. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a moment and ask, what does this trigger in your minds?
It's a very interesting way you have brought it out, from looking at the contradictory side when we are going through a negative phase, picking up bits and pieces of wisdom from all over and trying to piece it together into consciousness, which builds the coaching presence. Unfortunately, the frameworks give us a way to go around, but they seldom talk about the presence, which I think you've very nicely brought it out. That's fantastic.
You know, Aditya, I think it's more than just presence, because it is with this consciousness that you listen. It is with this awareness of consciousness that you speak. You know, we keep talking about speaking into the listening of the others. How can you speak into the listening of the others unless you're conscious of where you are, in which space you come from, and what is the listening of the other? Where is he? So you see, the concepts of consciousness, and I will bring that into a model and I will show that to you. Okay, it sort of it pervades right through all the competencies if one really looks at it. Let's go through a very, we do not want us to go and get too esoteric about it and start talking about the Gita and the Tattva Bodha and everything else. So let's put all that aside. Let's talk about something that we all know. When we get to a coach, as a coach, when we talk to somebody, in fact, as a human being, when we are talking to somebody and we are trying to teach or learn, okay, the immediate thing that comes to my mind is that it is a transference of knowledge, right? Now, how do we learn? What is knowledge? Let me ask you a question. Okay. Have you ever wondered how you learn to ride a bike? Can anybody teach you to ride a bike? Suman has had this experience with me, so she sees where I'm coming from in some ways. But has anybody ever taught you to ride a bike? How did you learn to ride a bike? Is it by reading a book, by attending a lecture, by being told what balance is? Is it by following a script, an SOP? That's not, you don't know how to ride a bike. So you see, the only way you can ride a bike is by getting onto a bike and experiencing the riding a bike. And the knowledge you pick up is not from concepts, thoughts, judgments, no, nothing. It actually comes in through sensations, through feelings, right? By being acquainted with the practice of riding a bike. That's how you pick up the knowledge of riding a bike. So you see, the Indian philosophy and psychology therefore says that there is a difference of 2 types of knowledge. One is knowing about something. And knowing about is something that you pick up by getting to know thoughts, concepts, and so on. Right? The multiplication table, you can learn. Concepts you learn and you know mathematics. But riding a bike is not knowing about. What it says is Indian philosophy system, psychology system says, that falls into the realm of another bucket of knowledge. That's knowledge of. You know what riding, balancing on a bike is all about. So there is a difference. And that comes through experience, direct experience. You see? So it was again a thing like this. So as a coach, when I'm sitting there in front of a coachee and I'm having a coaching conversation, how many times have we found that we explain concepts, we explain, what should be done, should not be done, whatever. And you may not instruct, but you might take him on a journey so that he gets it. And there's an aha moment. We all have had, a coach is going through aha moments, right?
Yep.
But then that aha moment doesn't stick. My esteemed coachee who's been so happy that he got it in the coaching room will walk out and Banda is exactly how he was afterwards. He hasn't changed a bit. What happened? He got it, didn't he? He was so happy then. But when he went out, he couldn't do it. So what happened? So as a coach, if we really want to transform and change a coachee, what do we need to do? It is knowledge that he is getting is of no use. It is not knowledge for him at all. It's just an experience.
Yeah.
But that knowledge becomes his knowledge when the new knowledge connects with the dots of knowledge that are already within him. So if the knowledge that you're imparting as a coach don't connect with him at an inner level, with knowledge he already possesses, and he sees that whole, then it's not knowledge for him. But the moment it connects with him, then he's got it. He's a changed person. Now, this is the ultimate of coaching. How do I not just present knowledge to my coaching? How do I get him into a state where he understands, even accepts at a cognitive level, but how does he internalize it and connect the dots within me? And that is where this dance of consciousness comes in. So just like us, he has different levels of consciousness. So you see, so if we, in the coaching conversation, and we will be moving up and down. Okay, so that is what I was referring to as the important learning in terms of really building up a coaching competency. Okay. Yeah. Any thoughts on this so far?
Any questions? Anything from the audience?
Yeah, Murthy, I think so, very nice points, Murthy. You took the nice example of when you try to learn to ride a bicycle. But initially somebody holds you for a few minutes or a few hours to ensure that you get your balance right. Okay, that's one point. Second point is, the point I agree with you is the learning during a coaching machine has to be made sustainable. Okay, that's one thing, is working on the inner self and making him learn. That is one. So what we guys have done is, I'm just sharing with you. We have done something which is called as a sustainability tracker. which keeps on reminding the coachee for the next 6 months, automated, okay, on the action points which are related to the goals. So I thought I'll just share this with you, which really has helped most of the coaches. The guys, even after 4 or 5 months, they're not left alone on that. Okay, yeah, but I just want to share that.
Yeah, that's true. That happens. Raj, you're again coming up to another concept which is so venerated. Okay, and that is one of abhyas. Okay, you cannot pick up knowledge and make it your own by having a will to change or knowing what changes. In addition to having the will and the courage to change, you need to have the discipline to practice it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and this is Marshall Goldsmith.
Yeah.
These concepts of, will, courage, and discipline is the bedrock of Marshall Goldsmith's process of coaching. So you see, this is the thing. Everyone I have found who brings up models of coaching are, what they are doing? It reminds me of a quote, and I will quote this. Give me a moment, I'll quote this. There was a Western psychologist, you won't believe it, a chap called William Broad. And he wrote a book based upon his studies of, different psychologies, including the Indian. And here is what he says. Okay, the more I delve into processes of coaching that lead to mastery, I'm reminded of a conclusion which says, these might be likened to stealing jewels from temples. A deeper appreciation of these processes fosters a realization of the purposes for which the temples were constructed in the first place. So you see, every single model picks up stuff from this, bits and pieces, and says, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. And then doesn't want to go by faith. It's got to be proven. So research work is done. Okay. And with all this, it is proven through experience, cognitive learning. And this works. And most of the Indian psychology philosophy, like the Eastern philosophy psychology, is not proven experiential knowledge. It's knowledge that's passed out through faith. And the real truth is that when you go through it with faith, you pick it up without the need for crutches, for supports, for systems. And then your whole behavior changes because nobody else needs to change it. It changes for yourself. I'll give you an example. And this is an often used example that I even use with my coaches. Okay. Imagine Wimbledon. And you've got the two of the tennis greats. We've just got Djokovic now. And he keeps talking about, beating Nadal. Okay. And one of the problems that Djokovic is facing is he cannot, face up to the serve that Nadal, hammers across. So what does Djokovic do? He sits with his coach. And they go on and on and on, and they look at videos and study it, and they have discussions. And then, aha, I got it. You know what? I need to change my stance a little bit. And I need to make a slight correction on the grip with which I hold the racket. And I shave a fraction of a second off. Euphoria. Then what happens? Djokovic, when he goes home that night, is playing that new grip and that new stance in his head. He needs no support. He then gets into this, he finishes dinner, is standing, and is playing the strokes. He's dreaming about it at night at a subconscious level. And he doesn't need practice, as a follow the instruction. When he gets onto the tennis court the next day, he's already practiced it. And that is how, and Amanda Duckworth calls it grit in her book. Again, some of the gems pulled out. So it is grit. So he doesn't have to be excellent, but that excellence comes by perseverance. And what you were talking about is brilliant, and we need to do this. But how can I, as an individual, do this on my own? Okay. Let me share this again, and maybe it takes you to a slightly different level. All right, I'm not going to go through all this. These are all stuff, but I want us to focus a little bit on this model. Now, Suman, my apologies, I'm putting this up again for you. Okay, Suman and I had been on a workshop, and we had done a lot of work going through all this. But in the essence, I'll tell you how I use this in my coaching practice is very simple. This is a considered opinion, a design of who we are as a person. And who we are as a person is this outside personality. And this outside personality is the sheath around us. Aditya, you talked about the koshas. This is one of the koshas. Okay, so this is one of the koshas with which we interact with Prakriti, with the outside world. And the personality, we are only interacting with, driven by our needs. And if we talk about our needs, various needs, physical, mental, self-actualization, recognition, social. We are also driven by our qualities. We all have qualities, and we recognize our qualities, and that's what drives us. Then our interaction with the outside world is again driven by our core beliefs. What are our core beliefs? Our fears, our inadequacies that we sense in ourselves, all the things that hold us back. And then, of course, our knowledge, because we have got experience, education, training, whatever. And all this is the personality with which we deal, with which we interact with the outside world. So if you look at us at a deeper level, however, we are more than that. As a kid, as a child, you didn't have any of these needs, qualities, core beliefs, kuch nahi tha. But you were driven by something else. And you were driven by your conscience, imagination, intuition, connectedness. Think about it. A small child can take 2 katoris, sit in a corner, and for hours create a fantastic meal for you as a parent. It can engage in its own game with an imagination that you and I don't have. When a child wants something, it just asks for it. And it won't rest until it gets it. Independent will. So these are all stuff that a child has even from infancy level. And this is a gift it has picked up. It didn't get it from parents. It didn't get it from anywhere else. It was born with it. So we have these within us and they don't go. As we get older, the personality begins to cloud the being. And slowly, many of us lose touch with this being. And then we are only dealing with the outside world with means. So you look at it from a coaching perspective. And we keep saying, be of service to the client. What do we mean by being of service to a client? If you look at this model, what is being of service to a client? You're of being service to a client when you are moving between your, the needs, core beliefs, qualities, and getting into deep touch with your endowments. You see? So if you look at this here, so this is what it is. So you have a personality and you've got a being, and your coachee has a being and a personality. And in between, you have to create your safe space and the energy space. So you see, so if you, and we all say, as a coach, to be able to coach, it's all about you first. Who am I? Know yourself as a coach. And recognize, what it is that I'm bringing into play when I'm in the presence of my client. And the client too is dancing. You see, so here is the whole question of consciousness and put together in a very brief way. So if we are able to dance between my being and my personality, recognize the client, see him as whole and complete in himself or herself. And I'm not talking down to the person or getting overawed by the person, but it's a being to being connect that I'm expressing. That is when I will really be doing justice to coaching. And I do not need all these models and structures, etc. This is when you're free flying. Okay, that's the submission that I would do. So some of the things that we did was we said that, look, in the studies that we, some of us were working on, we said there are ways of being for a coach. And see, these are different from the capabilities and the competencies. So this is all about consciousness. How centered am I? Have I really shed all my baggage? Am I in that space of connectedness? Being expansive, being fully present. Okay, committed to the client's transformation and empowerment, being courageous, being on purpose, loving and compassionate, being in service, being intuitive. Now, the coaching competencies as have been put up in the ICF list or in any other list, to my mind, are based upon this. They tell us the end result. For me, this way of being probably gives us a clue to how you can be present, do active listening, and so on. And that is the capability that we have. So capabilities are therefore what accomplished coaches will bring to use in their practice. And the space they come from will be one where they are adept at practicing the ways of being. And the practice, what you need to be doing are these 9. So I'm not going to read it here. I'm going to leave it open and open up for questions and thoughts. More important, I want sharing. What do you think about it?
This is fantastic. Actually, it's kind of not just talking at a pretty high level. It's drilling deeper and then kind of giving it into smaller nuggets, which becomes pretty easy to act upon and connect to.
Thank you.
CN, my 2 bits.
Yes, Suman.
I think like always, very powerful. Your sharing is really very deep. I think what the endeavor needs to happen from the coach's point of view is to move beyond the skills to within ourselves as coaches, to look at our deeper presence, right? I mean, we know how many of us are still working at the skills level as a coach. This material you have shared is really so deep. And I don't think this can be really developed at an intellectual level, like you said, at a conceptual level. And what I like is when you use the word dance, I've heard this a lot of times from you, but today the insight that I had is that because there are so many levels, even, I mean, all of us keep going between the skill and the deeper presence and our capability and everything as a coach. That's that beautiful dance. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
So before we proceed, I would just like to share about our next week's guest, and then we can come back to the conversation. I know it's an interesting conversation, but if in case somebody were to drop off and leave, they would at least know who the next week's guest is. Cian, may I take the screen share for a moment?
I'll stop sharing.
Sure. Thank you. So next week, we have a gentleman by name Silva Newton. Silva Newton comes with over 20 years of experience. He's based in Germany, and he's worked in GE and Allianz. And he's currently an advisor, a senior advisor with Columbia Business School, and also pretty frequently writes for McKinsey Quarterly Insights. So he's agreed to come on Coach's Corner. He's the so while he has started his coaching journey very recently, but he's been a Crotonville trainer for quite some time, and experienced in coaching leaders in GE and so on and so forth. So I'm looking forward for this session as well. As always, hopefully we all will find it pretty useful. I will stop the screen share and we're back.
Yeah, so I have a question.
Yes.
Sure, Jim.
So in the beginning, you mentioned that there are 4 kinds of consciousness. I'm really curious to know what they are.
Okay. See, the 4 levels. The last level is one when you are at that
The highest.
The highest level. You know, when you are one with the God. Okay, so that's at that level. The basis level is when you are only using it at a cognitive conscience level. Okay, and then you have your subconscious level. Then you have, they call it the supraconscious level, right? So you have the cognitive conscience, which is your normal conscience that we all practice. Then you have the subconscious level. Then you have the supraconscious level. And the last level is when you are in totally, in that space of Advaitam, when you are one with the world. Okay.
Thank you. And when we are in coaching mode,
I'm not using the Sanskrit words or anything here. I'm just trying to, sort of translate it, if you will. And in translation, there's so much that is lost.
Definitely. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So my next question would be, when we are in coaching and we are trying to be all those things, which is the level of subconscious that we should, ideally, of course, we should touch the highest level, but it's not always possible. Which level of consciousness should we at least attempt to, maintain our state in to be a good coach? be in the
Chimu,
present.
the moment you say which level should I be in, you are now beginning to intellectualize it. You're now beginning to think about it. And the wrong way to think about consciousness is to begin to intellectually try to discover at what level you are. Take that example that I gave you. Okay. When Djokovic is sitting there and thinking and thinking and thinking about the conversation that he had, at what level of consciousness was he in? He is not bothered about, is it cognitive consciousness? Okay, subconsciousness, supraconsciousness? No. I'll give you another one. How many times have you woken up, have you gone to sleep, weighed under an issue? And suddenly at 5 in the morning, your eyes open and you got it. From what consciousness did you get it? You see that? Now, and this is what I was saying a little while ago when Raj was talking about the processes and all. Okay. And this is exactly what the way in which the Vedanta brings it out is that it is not one leads to another, leads to another, and leads to another. So there is no form, there is no structure. It is just understanding at a level and becoming aware and being open to be there. And you get it. See, talk about presence. What is presence? If I'm in the presence of another, what do we really mean by saying I'm in the presence of another, Chimu? What would you say is that?
Being fully there, giving full attention, being there for that person, without extra thoughts, focusing on that person.
Absolutely. So when you are without thoughts in your head, when you're totally focused on the other person, you're totally present to the other, right? You know, at the highest level of presence, it is total connection with total love. And in fact, there is a lot of work done by many psychologists on about how love and connectedness really bring about this whole concept of presence. When I am, you know, and the Vedanta says is one with the universe. When I don't see duality, I have a coachee in front of me and I hear I'm a coach and I don't see that person as a coachee. I don't see myself as a coach. I see both of us as one. That is the highest level of presence. Would you agree with that? Can we ever get there? No. The simple, short answer to that is no. However, the abhyas gets you on that journey where you're able to understand the energies with which you are coming into the room. Am I in the sattvic energy, the rajas energy, the tamasic energy? And then what are the kleshas that are coming into play? Kleshas are the obstacles. Okay, and there are 5 that they talk about. And in English, the first is knowledge. The second is fear. When I'm afraid, it keeps me back. The third is rag, attachments. I love this. I can't be something else. You know, I have to give advice. I love giving advice. So I'm in that advice trap. Okay. Third is aversion. I can't do it. I can't stand it. It's against my entire being. So aversion. And the last, of course, is the famous ego. So there are all these traps. So all these begin to play. And where do they come from? They come from within yourself. It's in your Purusha and it is in your Prakriti. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So you train it by working on your senses, how you see, how you hear, curbing your tongue. So these are all the sensory ways in which we all go about relating to the outside world, right? So when you said full attention on that other person, it's the way we use our senses to create that oneness. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. So much of depth and knowledge and insight. I really appreciate
There
it.
is. No, I'll tell you honestly, Chimu and Raj, Aditya, I'll share something with you. I'm scratching the surface. And I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm sitting here and talking to you and trying to sound so knowledgeable, maybe. But guess what? I haven't even begun scratching the surface. There's so much to it. But when you get into it, the one thing I can tell you from personal experience, you don't have to get too deep to change yourself. Right? And I personally have been seeing the difference it's making to the coaching conversations I have in the last, I've been on this journey for about a couple of years now. And I always keep thanking my yoga teacher for having got me to this path. Yeah. See, I'm a great fan of Leo Vanderpool. I'm a really great fan of Peter Redding. And there are so many giants in the coaching arena who talk about mindfulness coaching and transformative coaching, and so many of them. And they're brilliant. And they have probably done a lot more work than I have. And the beauty about what they have done is they have brought structure to it. You see, but in the process of bringing structure, they move to the cognitive space, the brain. And unfortunately, the brain and logic is the least powerful of our entire body, of our entire self. I used to love the conversations I had with Leo on this.
We're just touching 5 o'clock. I'm cognizant of everybody's time. Anything else that anybody wants to ask or?
Yeah. Thank you, CN and Aditya. It was great.
Thanks,
Really
Raj,
enjoyed.
for finding time. I know how busy you are and pulling yourself to be here. It's
a great learning, Murthy. Always listening to you, and wonderful subject. And I want to know more about this Coach's Corner. Why cannot is this strictly by a small invitation list or something like that?
So I have started it off about a couple of months back. The way
Okay.
It started, Raj, is that I was talking to a few coaches and I found that the challenges that many coaches face in this journey are more or less similar. And fortunately, I had access to some senior coaches. So I thought I can get the senior coaches and start an experiential learning platform. And slowly it's growing. So usually we have around 10 people or so on an average, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. And every week I try to bring somebody and then help others learn, basically. All of us learn together.
Yeah, it's a great initiative. I think, a lot more people can get benefited by this, I think it's wonderful. I think we'll connect, Aditya.
Sure.
CN. So let's see, there are so many guys, we guys graduated from CFI, CFI Chennai. So, at least I can get some of our batchmates, and, I'm also heading the Southern Region chapter of CFI.
Oh,
So,
great.
we can get a lot of interesting guys to come and talk.
Great.
Talk, no more than talk, I think, listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
And
Please excuse me. I have to drop
Bye-bye.
off now. Thank
Yeah.
you, sir. Thank you so much. Learned a lot
Thank
from
you
you.
for your questions, and I loved your interest.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, sir. Thank you, Aditya. Bye,
Thank you.
Raj.
Bye.
Bye.
And Raj and Aditya, I must tell you, just listening and